Cheryl Lynn Friedman Huss, better known as Sherry Huss, was 39 years old and lived in Desert Hot Springs, a city located in the state of California in the Coachella Valley region in the United States. As she had been divorced from her ex-husband, a man named Jeff Huss, just 2 months before, she had to move to an apartment complex on Parma Drive where she lived alone with her children. The place is considered deserted, but according to Sherry's parents, she always dreamed of having a house in an area like that, as she liked the tranquility of the place. The woman was enjoying every moment with her new property. She was renovating and painting the walls and closets as she felt accomplished with it. According to friends and family, Sherry and Jeff had a friendly separation, so much so that they shared custody of their children who at the time were 14, 13, and 8 years old. On the night of April 23, 1994, Sherry texted her parents saying she felt she was being followed. In that same message, she also said that it looked like someone was taking pictures of her. And several times, she received calls that ended the moment she answered. This message was left on a voicemail, and for some reason that was not specified in the sources, Sherry's parents were only able to hear the message late at night, and according to them, their daughter seemed terrified. Since the woman's parents lived in the San Fernando Valley, which is more than 124 miles away from Sherry's home, they thought it best to go to their daughter's house only after daylight. The next day, April 24th, Sherry's parents arrived at her house around 10:30 a.m. and immediately realized that something was wrong. Sherry's car was found in the middle of the street instead of in the driveway. The porch light was on, and the family dog was tied up outside. Parents initially knocked on the front door of the house, but as they did not get a response, they decided to enter as they noticed the door was unlocked. Inside the house, they faced the worst scenario of their lives. The house was all messed up, and Sherry was lying on the living room floor, lifeless. The victim's parents, even shocked by the scene, immediately called the police. With the arrival of the police and also the expertise, it was found that Sherry had several perforations on her body, caused by a sharp object with a blade. Furthermore, the victim was half naked from the waist down, and there were bruises and bites over much of her body, indicating that Sherry had fought for her life. That night, the woman was alone at home, since her 2 children had gone to spend a few days at their father's house, and because of that, there were no witnesses at the time of the crime. No signs of forced entry were found in the house, only the front door was unlocked, which indicated that either the criminal was someone known to the victim or she simply forgot to lock the door and he took advantage of it. Later, Sherry's body was taken for an autopsy, and according to the coroner, the cause of death was due to bleeding caused by the various perforations that were in the body. Still according to the doctor, although the victim was found semi-naked from the waist down, it was not possible to verify whether there had been forced intimate relations or not. As many of you may already know, in cases like this, the victim's ex-partner is often one of the prime suspects, but not in this one, as Jeff Huss, Sherry's ex-husband, was many miles away from the crime scene and together with their children. After a more thorough examination was carried out in the house, the police were able to find blood and saliva that probably belonged to the criminal. That biological material was sent for analysis, which gave authorities a DNA profile. With that DNA profile in hand, the Riverside Bureau of Investigations team asked the FBI to place it in CODIS, which is a large system that stores various DNA profiles of criminals. Their goal was to find a match between the DNA from the crime scene and some DNA already registered in the CODIS. If they succeeded, the case would be solved. However, unfortunately, no match was found in CODIS at the time, and as there were no witnesses or other clues that could lead to the criminal, the case was closed. Sherry's parents did everything to keep the case active, and according to an article published in the Desert Sun in 2004, they offered a $50,000 reward for any information leading to the man who took their daughter's life. They even put up billboards all over the Desert Hot Springs area, but unfortunately, no relevant information was passed on to the police. As time went on, the police kept going back and reviewing Sherry Huss's case, and reusing the DNA found at the crime scene in CODIS to see if any matches came up. But what they didn't know was that it would take years for something concrete to emerge. More than 20 years since the crime against Sherry Huss, a new technology emerged that was helping to solve several cold cases that many thought would never be solved. I'm talking about genetic genealogy, a technology capable of tracking a particular individual through their family tree. All it takes is for a relative of any degree of the criminal to have taken an ancestry test at some company in the field and to leave their data available to the authorities. That it's only a matter of time before the person responsible for the crime is caught. Genetic genealogy not only helps authorities solve cold cases, it also helps families find long-lost loved ones or even help adopted people find their biological parents. The police knew how promising this technology was, and they decided to use it on Sherry Huss' case to see if they could get a breakthrough. And to their surprise, they had one. On February 14, 2022, the results of genetic genealogy tests done in the criminal's blood and saliva that were collected at the crime scene in 1994 led authorities to a 48-year-old man named Sharon Eugene Gadlin. A preliminary investigation found that in 1994, Sharon lived in Thousand Palms, just 11 miles from Sherry's home. Also on February 14, 2022, the police obtained a court order to collect a saliva sample from the man. He was at his home located in the city of Gardena, California, celebrating Valentine's Day. Sharon had moved into this house in the year 2012. The house is 118 miles away from the crime scene. According to some sources, the man gave his genetic material to the police without resistance, who after carrying out the collection, left to carry out the new tests. Just 4 days later, on February 18, police received results from the California Department of Justice laboratory confirming that Sharon's DNA was a match to the DNA collected at the crime scene in 1994. There was no longer any doubt. Sharon Eugene Gadlin was responsible for the crime against Sherry Huss. Upon learning of this, the officers immediately went to the man's address. However, he had already fled, and with that, a wanted alert was issued in his name. On the night of March 4, 2022, Sharon was arrested during a police checkpoint on Western Avenue, still in the city of Gardena. He was taken to the Robert Presley Detention Center and bond in the amount of $1 million was set. Later, when Sharon failed to post bail, he was transferred to Riverside Southwest Detention Facility. According to detectives, Sharon was only 19 at the time of the crime, and it was unclear if he and Sherry knew each other or if it was a crime of opportunity. What is known is that over the years, he moved to different cities and already had a criminal record. In 1998, aged 25, he was arrested along with another person, whose name I couldn't find, accused of selling illicit substances. Also in 1998, Sharon, along with another man, whose name I was also unable to find, tried to sue the San Bernardino police, claiming that the officers misused their authority. The lawsuit didn't go forward and was later shelved to lack of evidence. In 1999, Sharon was arrested again, this time for trespassing, damaging property, and disorderly conduct. I didn't find information on how long he was in prison for these crimes. Returning to the crime he committed against Sherry Huss, authorities have released few details regarding the progress of the investigation. As I have already mentioned, it remains to be seen whether the perpetrator knew the victim or whether it was a crime of opportunity. Authorities said they were doing everything to clarify what actually led the man to commit the crime in 1994, and that this information will only be released on the day of his trial, which still has no scheduled date to take place. Currently, Sharon Eugene Gadlin is still being held at the Riverside Southwest Detention Center where he awaits his trial. During an interview, Mike Hestrin, the Riverside County District Attorney, said he hopes Sherry Huss's family gets the justice they deserve. He also said that Sherry's case was one of the oldest cases in the country to be solved, and he believed that with genetic genealogy technology, they will be able to solve all the cold cases in the country. Jeff Huss, the victim's ex-husband, spoke out and said that at the time of the crime, they were thinking of resuming the relationship, and if she was alive, she would be 67 today. Jeff ended his statement by saying that Sherry had her life stolen and their children were stolen from the presence of a mother. Well folks, that's it for today. Thanks for watching until the end, best wishes, and I see you next time.